Hey guys, what's up? It's Schla coming back with with another episode of Car Rides with Schla. And today, what do we have in store? What is going on? I don't know. What is going on, you know? Oh, that's what I remember. I wanted to talk about this thing. So people who are in between the ages of, let's say, 40 and 90 are some of the dumbest, most dim-witted doofuses that I've ever met. Ignorant. It was something I came up with. It was funnier before, trust me. It was a lot funnier before. I actually had something of substance to say, though. I just thought of that as a joke, and then I don't remember what the rest of the conversation was going to be. I only remember that part when I was like, man, these people are the dumbest, most dim-witted doofus. And so, yeah, you guys don't get any insightful dialogue about that. You just get this silly jingle I came up with. But as for something we could talk about, I don't know. I mean, what's been on my mind recently? I'm still just kind of anxious about the hours. I'm really holding out hope about that. And I guess I'm a little bit worried because the closer the deciding time gets, the more I'm feeling that I really should not be getting my hopes up. That's just kind of the vibe. I just feel like, I really can't get that hopeful. Like, I just don't know. I need to try to wait, but I can never wait. I'm always thinking about what's happening next. I don't know how much we delved into it this morning, but I know I had mentioned it. This overwhelming lack of confidence that I've always had, and how much it's limited me in life, because it basically prevented me from ever applying myself properly, I think. I was masking laziness as insecurity. I believe I've articulated this before, where it's essentially like I didn't want to try to do things because it felt weak. It felt weak to have to try, and it felt like other people, everything just came so easy to them. So in school, I didn't want to study because it felt weak, and I wanted to be able to do stuff without studying. And of course, there was a good mix of laziness in there too. But I always perceived other people as being better than me, pretty consistently. And I don't know if this is something everybody does, because we obviously can interpret other people as being better because we don't see their thoughts, we only see their actions. So there's a lot of loud or even reckless people who appear better, but then you don't see the poor decisions they make. It's one of those things. I don't know if it's just a common part of the human condition or what it is, really. But I was always like that, and it just really held me back because and even now I think it does. I think even now I still struggle with that. And I think it has to do with that I know intuitively a lot of my gifts or things I am talented at, they just don't, they're definitely just underappreciated. I'm probably doing this kind of content never going to do big numbers. If you look at the kind of content that is getting millions of views, it's just stuff that doesn't even matter, The most viewed things on YouTube are probably just silly shorts And I just get the impression that a lot of people are really out of touch. I know this is a common theme I talk about, but just, bear with me. I just like venting about the same stuff, I guess, because it really affects me in a pretty deep way. There's just so many people that I feel like would never even be able to connect with this content. And it's just kind of frustrating because a part of me always wanted fame. I always wanted a clear recognition. And then now I don't know if that's really going to happen. I mean, of course I could have success in a minor way. I can definitely see that. But I don't see myself becoming some crazy huge celebrity. Of course, I guess I shouldn't be putting that out there, but just my impression on things as is now, the depth with which I reach is just out of a lot of people's scope. But when I have a moment like what happened yesterday where somebody actually commented and had something interesting to say, it really meant a lot to me. And I hope that's not just a one-off, but it really means something, So I'm trying to hope I can balance that, still doing this show for myself, but then also hopefully other people will start to tap in. And it does seem to be the case. Like every other week or so, maybe every other week, one of the episodes hits over 10 views, They just vary for some reason. And yeah, I don't know though where I'm headed. There's a lot of directions I could be headed in. Like I said, I wanted to revisit a lot of the spiritual things, which the content could take that kind of a tone shift fairly soon. I'm just still brushing up on a lot, so I haven't been talking about it yet. But I've started listening to some podcasts, and I'm starting to read some texts. I'm trying to get into reading books, and I'm looking to get an e-reader, the Boox Palma 2, or the Boox Palma 2. I'm not sure how you pronounce the brand, Boox. And I've been scouring eBay for it as I usually do, and I was very upset because I had been checking all day on Saturday, and then I checked before I went to bed at it was just 7:45, and it said one had just sold at 7:15. A listing for a really good deal popped up, and it sold within a few hours, and I must have just missed it. And that kind of stuff really nags at me because I've desperately wanted this e-reader, because I want to be able to get a bunch of different books and have them and not have it take up a bunch of space. And then the other thing is the light. It is kind of annoying to read in the dark, and I want it to be a before bed activity. So I really want to get this e-reader. And the Palma 2, it's smaller. It's not as big as a lot of e-readers, and I like that. I want something that it's the same size as a big iPhone, the Pro Max, right? I want something in that form factor. I don't really want like a tablet or a small tablet, which is the typical e-reader format. I'm just not interested in that. I think I see a lot of promise in that smaller form factor. I guess I mainly think about using it in the bed if I wanted to be on my side, or if I wanted to hold it in different ways. Having such a small device is a lot handier. So to me, it's something that's interesting. Now, maybe if I really am into the e-ink screen, I will get a tablet afterwards, but not really sure. I think the smaller, more versatile device is definitely better for me. I think it makes more sense. And I'm contemplating whether to just buy one brand new because it's a rare chance where I'd actually be pretty okay with supporting the company, because usually I just get everything off eBay, but this is a more of a niche product that I don't really have a problem with supporting. But I still scour on eBay. I don't like just give. I don't. I still just want to wait until somebody's selling it used. But it's obviously it's not sought after by a lot of people, but there's a small amount of people who want it badly. And so that's why one came up as a good deal, and I literally just missed it. And if it would have just been on there a little bit longer, I would have just bought it. And it's crazy, but that's life, right? I usually you find that with eBay. I've saved a ton of money on eBay, but you also definitely get those frustrating moments where you see somebody else get something really good. But it is what it is, right? It can't always be me. There's been plenty of times I've gotten the best deal. So, like with my Life in Wave toothbrush, I literally got such a good deal on that with eBay. You know what I'm saying? So there's certain things that you just can't get it all. You just can't get it all. And I've just accepted that. But I still get mad about it. But I'm trying to be less mad about it, because it's important to just be able to go with the flow. But yeah, I'm really trying to work more on my sleep because of how important that is. I mean, I already have it down pretty well, but just finishing touches on the sleep routine, that's been an interesting thing. And that's really where the whole e-reader idea is coming from. It's so I can have a better bedtime routine, because I have just been on, like, I'll just be on my phone or computer before bed. And I know that's not good. I've just been able to get away with it for some reason, so I'm pretty sure I just have very good sleep genetic circadian rhythm. But it could be better, and it still is better. I have the Apple Watch track it, and it seems like when I do properly space it out, where I take a break from screens earlier, it matters. So I'm very interested in this e-ink, and it's just frustrating. My merino wool clothing is on the way. That should be coming in 2 days, so I'm very, very excited about that. I'll be sure to let you guys know how impressive it really is, because it's really been hyped up a lot, and I hope it's not just over-dramatized how good it really is, and I didn't waste a bunch of money on very nice merino wool. But that just remains to be seen. I mean, what else is there to say about life? Kind of annoyed I was really having a good conversation with myself during lunch. And I'm really mad all I remember from it is that dull, dim-witted thing. I just think it's mostly a point about how a lot of people from those generations, they were raised on values or systems that were really temporary. I've already explained this before, but I guess I'll just say it again. Values and systems that were very temporary. So for almost all of human history, nobody was moving out and getting their own place. You were just kind of stuck with your family. And even in lower income areas, it's still like that nowadays. People don't move out all the time. A lot of people still have a grandparent living at home or something. And it's always been that way. That's not even weird or strange or anything. And yeah, for a few decades, just a few decades, it was possible. From, the 60s to the 90s, 2000s even. Economy was still pretty good in the 2000s. It was really the 2010s that things started to decline. But then if you compare that to the 2020s, the 2010s look great. So it's just gotten a lot worse very quickly. But it's really the 2020s that things have gotten essentially unbearable, that's really when things have gotten really bad. You know, the 2010s were not good, but they were fine. I think things were still bearable for people. Things were expensive, but people were not losing it the way that, I mean, now it's horrible. You can't even do anything anymore. I'm in a fortunate enough situation, but seriously, I mean, I'm doing crazy stuff like working 12-hour shifts, and yeah, it's crazy. You know what I mean? And I don't know that I would have done that if it was the 90s. I just probably wouldn't have needed to, because the economy was so much better. But yeah, I just think a lot of people from that era are ignorant. And they don't understand how much things have changed or how uniquely different it was in that time. And that time's never going to come back. It's just interesting. I don't know. I don't think it's ever going to come back. It would be possible, but like I've explained before, I think democracy, we'll be living in a post-democracy fairly soon. I mean, you could already make we're still in a democracy, but I would already argue the foundation for being in a post-democracy is really already prevalent. The way that money has bought out and manipulated politics, I think it's very difficult to make the argument that we are still a fully fledged democracy. I don't really see how that's the case, especially with how consequential it is to have extra money in politics in this day and age. I just think it's just so difficult for me to say that it's truly a democracy. And I've already said before, I think for a proper democracy, it's a necessity to have a well-educated populace that is very active in voting and very good at decision-making. And we know those things are not apparent in America as of now. They're just not. And so I don't know how democracy can exist and persist. And that's why I'm saying you could make the argument it's already gone. Because in this day and age, with the extreme distraction and just degree of, it's not even quite misinformation, it's delusional information. The amount of people who have zero comprehension of how the system works in any real capacity, it's staggeringly scary. And it really, it says a lot. You know, I mean, a lot of people couldn't even tell you how the Senate works or how the House of Representatives work. And these are people who vote. I'm assuming not a majority of Americans, a majority of voting Americans, I would assume, just vote based on party and don't really understand how things work. Because we're living in this era of it's like a post-intellectual society. We are past the point where people care about learning, or at least a plurality of people care about learning. Most people are either neutral to learning, meaning they go to school and they do their work and they're half depressed, but they're fine, or they are openly more animalistic and they're like people who are looking for drama, looking for trouble, doing nonsensical things. That's how I feel like the schools are now. It is a clear minority of children now who I think actually want to learn. And I'm only saying this from my experience, but when I talk to people, it just does not seem like anybody is ever receptive to learning. Now, maybe I'm doing the cardinal sin. I know that I don't think that's what it's called. It's not a grave sin. I can't believe I'm forgetting. I'm like really mad at myself for that. A mortal sin? There's some term though, but we'll just go with mortal sin. I'm committing the mortal sin of thinking that, yes, in addition to school, you should come home from school and you should be having pretty deep conversations with your friends and with your family. People should be talking about politicians and what they're doing and very specific pressing issues at the time. Not coming home and cracking a bunch of jokes, or at this point, not even interacting with each other. I know it's such a crazy concept that people would talk about things of substance, but I think it's necessary in a late stage developed society. It's just necessary if you want to maintain and enjoy the privileges that we have. And I know it's such a foreign concept to people, but I'm not sure what it is. But I consistently see it. I've been in so many social situations where I'm the only person that will bring depth, a mixture of depth and accurate information to the table. And that latter point is potent, because it's easy to just talk about a bunch of stuff and not really know what you're talking about, or you're essentially just parroting off what other people have said, versus actually learning things and being able to explain and articulate the nuances to it yourself. I don't know how it comes across on this show, but this is all in real time. It's not scripted. I am learning information from people, but I don't think I've ever really directly parroted talking points very much. A lot of this stuff I'm having my own intuition about. And again, it being based off accurate information is more important than you think, because a lot of people's judgment and intuition is very poor. And I've seen that firsthand in so many people that I've talked to. Now, for me, I usually can tell if I say something. I know I've been repeating this a lot too, but it's just because it ticks me off. I'm pretty aware if I'm not certain of myself, and I will specify it. And I always do that. And I'll have a track record and a history built up of credibility, and it just doesn't matter to people. People will still just blow you off if you disagree with what they already think. And then GPT is fun now, because now I can type my thing in and it can elaborate and explain, which is useful for people who don't understand basic science, apparently. And you know, with how uneducated I am, that's the craziest thing. I'm not very well educated. I just have a high school diploma. So I don't even know where I'd be at if I was educated properly. But again, for some reason, I just didn't. I mean, my grades in school were never impressive, and so I don't think anybody really noticed anything too crazy. But like I said, it's a language and a systemic way of thinking about things. It's not an intellect that is showcased via text very well. And I'm not against tests, because that's a whole other thing. There's a lot of people who don't like tests because they're, oh, well, it doesn't measure my intelligence because maybe I'm just not a good test taker. I don't really agree with that. I do think tests make sense. It makes sense that you would have to take a test and do well on it in order to prove you're smart. And I think it works well enough. Meaning, yes, I do think smart people do better on tests and dumb people don't. And so I'm not against tests, but I think that whatever gift I have is just uniquely not well suited for tests. It's just, I'm not really sure why, but I guess I get too in my head when it comes to tests, or my score's not impressive, but maybe my speed's impressive, or things like that. And like I said, I think most of my intellect is in philosophy. And that, even in and of itself, I know that is a little bit delulu, because a lot of people who are allegedly artistic or allegedly philosophical or allegedly spiritual, I know there's a kind of a negative connotation associated with that, because since they're open-ended subjects, you can be really stupid and then technically still act like you're a philosopher or act like you're poetic or artsy, especially with postmodern poetry and art. But what I think that I'm able to bring to the table is a more calculated or scientific mind when it comes to interpreting these mediums. I'm not as delusional as I think the stereotypes tend to hold. And I think I was when I was a teenager, and it's taken a lot of development and maturity to get to where I'm at. And I guess a lot of people just don't end up getting there. But at this point, I think when I hear about ideas and interpretations, my intuition is a little bit better, and I'm a little bit better at not falling for things and being able to take a step back, compare different perspectives, try to rule out what's good, what's not. And even when I'm saying that, I'm getting worried, because I don't want to come across like that, and I don't even want to actually act like that, because it's always really important to not get cocky, because even now, there's always things that come up that catch you. It just always works like that. You can never, and sometimes that's been one of my bigger things, is I'm so good at pattern recognition and calculating and assuming. I will assume something to be the most likely thing, and then it's not that, because the world doesn't make sense and people don't make sense. So then I have to think, I guess, more in each isolated situation. Like, my brain will be quick and it'll just calculate and make assumptions, and then I'll get something wrong, because I guess I'm thinking too much in a big picture. So that maybe that's why tests don't really work out, because tests are obviously usually small picture. But that's why I wonder, I probably would have been good at writing essays and things like that if I had just gotten a mic and did the text-to-speech, speech-to-text, sorry, not text-to-speech, speech-to-text. And what's crazy is I'm remembering my 4th grade teacher told me about that, because she mentioned it. And I guess the reason why she mentioned it is because she noticed my talking or something, which is odd, because back then I didn't think I was special at talking at all. Like I said, I just thought I was bad at socializing and talking until very recently, where I'm finally having an ounce of confidence about it. But for most of my life, no. And I remember that, and I just think I was always opposed to it. I just didn't like it. I never liked the speech-to-text, but now I use it all the time because it's so much faster, especially for me. And not that I'm a slow typer, but I'm obviously a faster talker, and it's just a superior medium at the end of the day. So that is what I do a lot of the time with GPT and stuff. I do the dictation. But yeah, I think if I had done that, and or even now if I ever do go to college, which I don't think is likely just because of logistics, but I would probably do that. And I think I would be able to write pretty good essays because I would speak out what I want to write and get it done pretty fast and then just go through and proofread it. There's a million different things now too, like Grammarly and all that stuff. I mean, I would probably be pretty good at writing, and that's without AI or anything. But see, I mean, that's the whole problem, right? It wouldn't be as impressive anymore because already as is, people use the AI to cheat and do all this stuff. So then what if people just think I'm using AI, or like writing a good essay is not relevant anymore? But it would be interesting. Now, when I said the logistics of college, I mean that I don't see how the pay is worth the cost. And I'm personally anticipating that degrees won't even be valuable in the future. That's my personal opinion. I don't know. I mean, I've kind of been thinking that for a while, but I'm really seeing it now where there's so much overhead cost, it doesn't even make sense. I don't know. And then as things have gone on, now that you have AI, the need for a teacher is so much reduced. I mean, a lot of things... Yeah, so I don't know. I mean, unless society is really that archaic to where they still forcibly allow it or something. What do I mean by that? Yeah, okay, sorry. I was getting mixed up what I was talking about. Unless society's that archaic where they just continue to force college degrees even when it's just totally unnecessary. I don't know. But that's the thing that's crazy is a lot of these people, I mean, I'm pretty sure with a college degree, you still are probably only going to make at most 20-something an hour coming out of that. Because I assume there's people who, like, I know plenty of people who go to college and then they can't get a job necessarily just because they have a degree. They end up having to just, work as a cashier or something. And then you have a bunch of debt, so it really strangles you. And even the people who get the alleged good jobs, like I just mentioned, I mean, you need to be making at least $25 an hour to make a living wage. And that would be without college degree. Oh, well, I guess some people live with their parents. So I guess if you're living with your parents, you could be paying off a student loan instead of rent. Yeah, it kind of works, but, Well, the whole situation doesn't make any sense. I mean, why can't people move out? It has to just be a housing issue with private equity and I guess not enough affordable homes built or something, because why else would this be happening? It just makes no sense. They just need to start building more low-income apartments. Like, I feel like so many people don't even... But it's going to hit them, it's going to bite them anyway. I think a lot of these places have built these expensive apartments, and we're probably already seeing, like, nobody's going to rent them, and then what is going to happen? It's just, I don't know. I guess they figure it's forced because a lot of times you kind of have to. So, like, they can build a bunch of expensive stuff, and they know people are going to rent it, because what are you going to do? Not have a home? Not have an apartment? You have to have a home and apartment. So if they do that, I guess it's kind of a way of rigging the system maybe or something. I don't really know. That's kind of what I think. Maybe that's what the assumption was, at least. Everything's just messy, though. That's the whole issue. And the lack of organization wasn't as big of an issue before, but I actually think things are less organized now. Believe it or not, I just think things are actually less organized. Because before there was more things going on locally, I feel like, where each person kind of had more of a semblance of what's what. Whereas now, I get the impression that nobody really knows what's going on. And then the consequence of that is it's just up to the government, and then the government systems are also probably worse than they were before. It's just this whole cycle. I mean, people are less independent, and they're more dependent on not just the government, but just society. I mean, there's so much I could get into with that, with how, yes, there is a food cost of living issue, but it's also people making poor choices with food, but that is that exactly their fault? I feel like that's a concept we talk about so many times, but here we are again. But sorry to disappoint you all, but it has been schla, and now it's time to buy schla. So, see ya schla.